The first in a trilogy of adaptations from Suzanne Collins' widely popular and critically acclaimed book series of the same name, this science fiction action drama directed by Gary Ross was released on March 23rd, quickly grossing over $150 million on opening weekend, the most ever for a non-sequel. The film stars Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson as a pair of so-called star-crossed lover teenagers who live in a poor district of a dystopian nation-state set sometime in the distant future that's ruled by wealthy individuals in the capital. After a great deal of exposition and shaky camera fanfare, the titular Hunger Games are set into motion, following a lottery drawing that selects our heroes as two lucky tributes, forced to fight to the death against 22 other teenagers for reasons only poorly and quickly explained. But first, they're literally paraded around to the world, giving the nation more time to place bets on who might win these games.
I'm sorry that this happened to you. I'm here to help you in any way that I can.
Most people just congratulate me.
Well, I don't see the point in that. So tonight, they have the tribute parade. I take you out and show you off to the world.
So you're here to make me look pretty?
I'm here to help you make an impression. Now, usually they dress people in the clothes from their district.
Yeah, we're always coal miners.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that. I want to do something that they're going to remember. Did they explain about trying to get sponsors?
Yeah, but I'm not very good at making friends.
We'll see.
Elizabeth Banks, Woody Harrelson, Stanley Tucci, Lenny Kravitz, and Donald Sutherland round out the supporting cast, which despite lending a great deal of wisdom and credibility to the script, are mostly wasted in their smaller roles. I say mostly because Tucci's scenery-chewing role as the Hunger Games TV host was a fun and memorable one. It's not often we get to see an accomplished Oscar-nominated actor wearing ridiculous outfits and sporting a giant blue hairdo. Borrowing heavily from stories of yesteryear like The Most Dangerous Game, Lord of the Flies, and even The Running Man, the focal point of this picture is the gladiator-style, no-holds-barred competition amongst 24 teenagers, apparently broadcast live on television across the nation. Inherently, the reasons why such a competition exists is what makes this story fascinating and interesting. Unfortunately though, the film adaptation does little to explain anything that happens. Instead, watching kids murder each other for the 74th consecutive year in a row for a supposed sacrifice is treated with merely cursory emotions, the audience forced to simply accept that these barbaric rituals not only make sense, but serve as universally accepted entertainment in a post-apocalyptic environment. While none of the acting here is unbelievable, I was definitely expecting more from newcomer Lawrence, who was amazingly impressive in last year's Academy-nominated Winter's Bone. On screen here for nearly the entire 142-minute runtime, rarely does she exhibit anything close to that earlier performance. Based on the best-selling novel that relies heavily on gruesome violence and the struggles of surviving in the wilderness, never once does this PG film adaptation come close to satisfying these more R-rated themes, leaving the movie feel like a watered-down basic cable edit of a much more ambitious film. Far too much time is spent developing the concept and the run-up to the games, and very little is spent developing any of the other teenage gladiators, all of whom die one by one without so much as a mild reaction from the audience, or their co-stars. While it's easy to consult the book for these missing developments and backstory, it is important, even essential, that as an honest and accurate film review, we must ignore all outside mediums and judge the picture solely on the merits contained within. If The Hunger Games is required reading to truly appreciate and grasp the importance of its film adaptation, then such a movie hasn't actually accomplished its goal effectively, has it? Besides meaningful characters, a well-paced script, or a satisfactory backstory, the other thing sorely missing from this movie is a sense of scope. We're repeatedly told these games are a national phenomenon, but the true celebrity status of the contestants is very difficult to appreciate when you're forced to just imagine it entirely for yourself. Couple that with an overused and downright motion sickness-inducing camera and editing style early in the movie, and what you're left with is a very interesting concept that's unfortunately haphazardly executed. Younger audiences and fans of the book will find plenty to enjoy here, as the script stays decently faithful to its source material, especially given the restrictions of the shorter format and the PG-13 rating. An intriguing look at a twisted future society, fun action sequences, and a simple romance subplot will keep this movie interesting, but is decidedly a far cry from the masterpiece blockbuster many fangirls are touting it as. The Hunger Games. Exciting and enjoyable, but unimpressive. Now that you've heard my review, let's read some of yours from the YouTube comments. Here's a Rate-O-Matic to rank The Hunger Games, a 6 and a 9. Those of you who hadn't read the original book really enjoyed this film for its action, story, and main characters. and those that were familiar with Collins' novel loved it even more, citing it as a decently faithful adaptation. Your scores averaged to an awesome. I liked this movie, I really did. It was a fun way to spend 2 hours. But given the level of hype it received, I was positively underwhelmed by the been there done that attitude and the treatment of the murderer's entertainment focus. And the violently fast camera and editing style really made this movie painful and confusing to watch at times. I thought it was good though.